Thank God. This incredible HFY masterpiece found you today. Witness the legend, starting now.
The scanner screamed like it had detected a biological weapon. Turns out, it was a birthday gift from a human's mother. Nobody tells you about the paperwork when you sign up for station security. They show you the plasma rifles, the combat training simulators, the fancy detection equipment that can supposedly sniff out illegal substances from 3 sectors away. What they don't mention is the forms. Oh, the forms. 17 different documents just to process one detained suspect, and that's before the actual interrogation begins. My name is Torvik, and I've been working security on Station Meridian 7 for the past 9 cycles. I've seen it all. Smugglers trying to hide Zentarian spice in their stomach pouches. Pirates with enough weaponry strapped to their bodies to start a small war. Even that one time, a Glorbian tried to sneak an entire black market zoo through customs, live creatures and everything. But nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, prepared me for the day we dragged Mira Chen into detention. She didn't look like much, honestly. Humans rarely do. Short compared to most species, no natural armor plating, no venomous glands, no third arm for additional combat efficiency, just soft pink skin, brown hair tied back in what they call a ponytail, and these weird round eyes that didn't even have the decency to be positioned on the sides of her head for proper peripheral vision. Evolution really did them dirty, if you ask me. The scanner had gone off when she passed through Gate 12. Not a small blip either. A full-blown 5-alarm screaming match of alerts that had every guard in the sector reaching for their weapons. Jenkins, my Kravaxian partner, nearly knocked over an entire family of Pelorian tourists in his rush to intercept her. The human just stood there, looking mildly confused, while the scanner continued its electronic tantrum. Bag, Jenkins had growled, extending his lower manipulator appendage. Open. Now, to her credit, Mira Chen didn't panic, didn't run, didn't even argue. She just shrugged, one of those peculiar human gestures that could mean literally anything depending on context, and handed over her travel satchel. Inside, wrapped in what appeared to be decorative paper covered in tiny earth symbols, was the offending item. The contraband detector practically had a seizure. Red lights, sirens, the whole dramatic production. 3 more guards appeared out of nowhere, weapons drawn, creating a perimeter around this one small human, who looked about as threatening as a Niblurian kitten, which granted Niblurian kittens are actually quite vicious, but you get my point. Ma'am, you're going to have to come with us, I said, trying to sound official and not at all like I was already dreading the mountain of documentation headed my way. Sure, she said. Just like that, sure. As if getting arrested on an intergalactic space station was a normal Tuesday afternoon activity for her species. The walk to Detention Block 7 took approximately 4 minutes. 4 minutes of the most awkward silence I'd ever experienced in my career. And I once had to escort a Vorthian monk who'd taken a vow of absolute quiet for 6 hours straight. At least the monk had a reason. Mira Chen just actually hummed some tune under her breath while Jenkins kept his weapon trained on her back and I clutched the evidence bag like it might explode at any moment. Detention Block 7 is not designed for comfort. Gray walls, harsh lighting that flickers every 30 seconds because maintenance never gets around to fixing it, and cells that smell vaguely of disinfectant and regret. We've got 16 holding areas each equipped with force fields, monitoring equipment and absolutely zero amenities beyond a basic waste disposal unit. The Galactic Council insists this meets minimum standards for temporary detention. The Galactic Council has clearly never spent time in one of these cells. I processed her belongings while Jenkins activated Cell 9. Standard procedure. Everything logged and catalogued. 1 travel satchel, brown synthetic material. 1 communication device, human make, approximately 3 cycles old based on the model. 1 data tablet containing what appeared to be star charts and something called a grocery list. 17 credits in mixed currency. And then the item. The thing that started this whole mess. The contraband. The supposed threat to station security. Sitting there in its cheerful wrapping paper. Completely innocuous and simultaneously the bane of my existence for the next several hours. I looked at Mira Chen. She looked back at me, calm as a Delarian sea on a windless day. You know what you were carrying is illegal on 73 registered station platforms, right? I asked. She blinked. Is it? Oh. This was going to be a long shift. Chief Interrogator Vorntak arrived exactly 23 minutes after we locked Mira Chen in Cell 9. You could set your chronometer by that man, seriously. He had this whole presence about him, 8 feet of scaled Drevothian authority with mandibles that clicked when he was annoyed, which was basically always, 40 years of service, thousands of successful interrogations, and a reputation that made hardened criminals confess just to avoid spending time in a room with him. He took one look at the human through the observation window and those mandibles started clicking. This is the dangerous smuggler who set off every alarm in Gate 12. Vorntak's voice had this rumbling quality that vibrated through your chest cavity. Intimidating as hell. Exactly what you'd want in an interrogator. Yes, sir. I confirmed, pulling up her file on the display panel. Mira Chen, human female, age 24 standard years, registered resident of Earth Sector, currently employed as a, botanical research assistant, a plant scientist. Vorntak's mandibles clicked 3 times in rapid succession. Not a good sign. Technically a plant scientist's assistant, sir, he grunted. Which in Dravathoian translates to something between disgust and resignation. Fine, let's get this over with. I have an actual arms dealer scheduled for processing room 3 in an hour. The interrogation chamber is deliberately uncomfortable. Temperature kept just slightly too cold for most species. Chairs designed to prevent relaxation. Lighting positioned to cause eye strain. Psychological warfare. They called it in training. Break them down before you even ask the first question. Mira Chen sat in the designated suspect chair and immediately crossed her legs. Leaned back and smiled. Vorntak's eye ridges. All 4 of them rose incrementally. In 20 years of working with him, I'd never seen that particular expression. He settled into his seat across from her, spread his documentation across the table with practiced precision, and activated the recording system. State your full name for the record, he began, using Protocol 7, the one reserved for non-cooperative suspects. Mira Chen. Well, technically Chen Mira, if we're doing it the traditional way, my grandmother insists on. But I grew up on Earth's western continent, so we flip it around, you know how it is. She was still smiling. Do you need me to spell it? Chen. Pretty straightforward. Vorntak's mandibles went completely still. That's when you know he's really thrown off. Are you aware of the serious nature of your detention? I mean, the 7 armed guards kind of gave it away, yeah. Then perhaps you'd like to explain why you were attempting to smuggle prohibited materials through a secure checkpoint. Prohibited what now? Mira tilted her head. Another one of those bizarre human gestures. I literally have no idea what you're talking about. Jenkins placed the evidence bag on the table between them. The wrapped item sat there, innocent and damning all at once. Vorntak gestured toward it with his primary manipulator. This, detected by our scanners, flagged in our database as illegal contraband under Galactic Regulation 774 subsection B. Would you care to tell us what it is? Mira leaned forward, squinted at the package, and then, I swear on my ancestors' shed scales, she laughed. Not a nervous laugh, not a guilty laugh. A genuine, full-bodied, completely baffled laugh that echoed off the chamber walls. Oh my God, are you serious right now? Vorntak's scales rippled. A clear sign of rising irritation. Miss Chen, I assure you this is no laughing matter. You are facing charges that carry a minimum sentence of 2 cycles in a correctional facility. Possibly more depending on intent to distribute. For that? She pointed at the package, still grinning like this was the most entertaining thing that had happened to her all week. You've got to be kidding me. We do not kid, Miss Chen. Our detection equipment is state-of-the-art, calibrated to identify thousands of prohibited substances. The readings from your bag were absolutely definitive. Definitive that I'm carrying what, exactly? Vorntak pulled up the scanner analysis on his datapad, mandibles clicking as he read the results. According to our equipment, you are in possession of a Class 3 biological hazard containing trace amounts of psychoactive compounds, banned stimulants, and this is particularly concerning, compounds that match the chemical signature of military-grade alertness enhancers used by 7 different mercenary organizations. The silence that followed was spectacular. Mira just stared at him, mouth slightly open, eyes wide, then she started laughing again. Harder this time, so hard she actually had to wipe moisture from her eyes with her sleeve. Oh no. No, this is amazing. This is actually amazing. She tried to compose herself, failed, dissolved into giggles again. You scanned my birthday present from my mom. Vorntak and I exchanged glances. His mandibles had stopped clicking entirely. Never a good sign. "You're what?" I asked, breaking protocol because someone had to. Mira reached for the package, then paused, looking at Vorntak. "Can I, or are you going to tase me or something?" "Slowly," he said. She carefully unwrapped the decorative paper, revealing a simple rectangular container. Inside, nestled in protective packaging, sat approximately 24 small brown objects, each individually wrapped. "Gentlemen," Mira said, holding up one of the items with the kind of reverence usually reserved for religious artifacts, "allow me to introduce you to homemade brownies. Chocolate brownies, to be specific. My mom makes them every year for my birthday. She sent them via courier ship last week." Vorntak picked up one of the brownies with his collection forceps, holding it up to the light like it might spontaneously combust. "This is a food item." His voice had gone very quiet. "The best food item," Mira corrected. "My mom's secret recipe. Dark chocolate, a hint of coffee, little bit of vanilla extract. Absolute perfection." I pulled up the scanner results again, comparing them to what was sitting on the table. Chocolate, high concentrations. Coffee, trace amounts. Vanilla extract. Sugar, butter, eggs. Oh no, this was going to be so much worse than I thought. Vorntak made the executive decision to place Mira back in holding while he sent the brownies to the station lab for full analysis. "Standard procedure," he insisted, even though I could see his confidence cracking like a cheap hull panel under pressure. The human went quietly, still looking more amused than concerned, which was somehow worse than if she'd been screaming about lawyers and civil rights violations. Cell 9 sat between Cell 8, currently occupied by a Zarthorian caught selling fake transit passes, and Cell 10, home to a very drunk Peluvian, who kept singing what I assumed were folk songs in a language that sounded like gargling gravel. The moment Mira settled onto the cell's bench, both neighbors pressed themselves against the force fields to get a better look. Hey, human," the Zarthorian hissed, his 3 eyes blinking in sequence. "What they get you for?" "Baked goods," Mira replied, examining her fingernails. The Peluvian stopped mid-song. "What?" "Chocolate brownies, to be exact. Apparently they're weapons of mass destruction now." I watched from the security station as the Zarthorian and Peluvian exchanged confused looks. The drunk one sobered up remarkably fast. "They arrested you for food?" The Zarthorian's voice had gone up an octave. "Just food? My mom's brownies, but yeah, basically. That's the most human thing I've ever heard," the Peluvian muttered, sliding back down to a sitting position. "Of course humans would get arrested for treats. Of course, within 15 minutes, every detainee in the block knew about the human and her contraband confections. Within 30 minutes, the guards knew. Within an hour, half the station's security personnel had found excuses to walk past Detention Block 7 just to catch a glimpse of the girl who'd been detained for birthday presents. Jenkins came back from his break, looking troubled. "Control room's talking. They want to know if we actually arrested someone for chocolate." "We arrested someone for carrying items that tested positive for controlled substances," I said, trying to sound more confident than I felt. "Torvik, buddy, friend, my scaled companion." Jenkins leaned against the console. "We arrested a botanical research assistant for brownies her mother sent her. Do you understand how insane that sounds?" Before I could respond, the detention block door hissed open, and Station Administrator Kolnira strode in, her crystalline features practically glowing with barely contained fury. Kolnira was a Luxarian, which meant she was essentially a 7-foot-tall being made of sentient crystal who could refract light in ways that expressed emotion better than any facial expression. Right now, she was refracting pure, undiluted annoyance in shades of deep crimson. "Someone explain to me," she said, her voice sharp enough to cut diamond, "why my communication console has been flooded with inquiries about a human female detained for pastries." "Ma'am, the scanners registered multiple prohibited compounds." I started. "I've read the report, Torvik. I've read it 3 times because I kept thinking I was misunderstanding something fundamental about reality." She pulled up a holographic display, flicking through screens with increasing agitation. "Chocolate, coffee, vanilla extract, sugar. Do you know what these things are? Apparently ingredients in human desserts? Ingredients in human desserts that are also molecularly similar to half the contraband database. Because nobody thought to update the filters for biological compounds found in food preparation." She turned that crimson glow on me, full force. We've been using equipment calibrated for weapons and drugs to scan groceries. The Peluvian started laughing in his cell. Then the Zarthorian joined in. Within seconds, the entire detention block sounded like a comedy club on amateur night. Kyunira's glow shifted to orange, which I'd learned meant migraine-level frustration. Where is she? I pointed to cell 9 where Mira had apparently decided to take a nap, curled up on the bench with her jacket as a pillow, completely unbothered by the chaos swirling around her. She's sleeping, Kyunira observed, her voice flat. Has been for 20 minutes, ma'am. We detained her 4 hours ago for her birthday cake, and she's sleeping. The administrators cycled through several colors I didn't have names for. Of course she is. Why wouldn't she be? It's not like she committed any actual crimes. Lab results aren't back yet, Jenkins offered weakly. Oh, I'm sure the lab results will be fascinating. I'm absolutely certain they'll confirm that yes, indeed, chocolate contains compounds that look suspicious to equipment designed to find explosives. This will be a groundbreaking revelation that will change everything we know about confectionery threats. Kyunira's sarcasm could have stripped paint off a hull. The communication panel beeped. I answered it, grateful for any distraction. Detention Block 7. This is Research Lab 12. We've completed preliminary analysis on evidence item 774B. The lab technician sounded confused. Is this some kind of test? Because we're reading massive amounts of theobromine, caffeine and various lipid compounds, but nothing that would classify as contraband unless you count excessive deliciousness. I looked at Kyunira. She looked at Mira, still peacefully asleep in her cell. The detainees had gone quiet, watching the unfolding disaster with the kind of glee usually reserved for sporting events. Ow, Kyunira said slowly, carefully. Did this become my problem on a station with actual criminals to process? Nobody had a good answer for that. Lab technician Rixale arrived in person 30 minutes later, carrying a datapad and wearing the expression of someone who'd just had their entire understanding of chemistry called into question. She was a Valorian. All tentacles and bioluminescent patches that flickered when she was thinking hard. Right now, those patches were strobing like a malfunctioning light display. I need to speak with the human, she announced, bypassing all proper protocol and heading straight for cell 9. Kyunira waved a crystalline hand in permission. Be my guest. This situation cannot possibly get more ridiculous. Mira woke up when the force field deactivated, blinking slowly like someone emerging from genuinely restful sleep. The audacity of this woman, I swear. Aye, Mira said, sitting up and stretching. Are we done here or should I get comfortable for the long haul? Miss Chen, I've been analyzing your brownies for the past hour. Rixale's tentacles coiled and uncoiled with agitation. Do you have any idea what you've done? Made my mother very proud of her baking skills. You've exposed a critical flaw in our entire contraband detection system. Rexall pulled up holographic charts that meant absolutely nothing to me but seemed to mean everything to her. Look at this. Theobromine, the primary compound in chocolate, shares a molecular structure with 7 different stimulants on the prohibited substances list. The caffeine in your coffee additive? Flagged as a performance enhancer. The vanilla extract? Do you know what vanilla extract is suspended in? Alcohol? Mira offered. Alcohol, yes, which our scanners read as a solvent carrier for injectable substances. Rixal's bioluminescence went into overdrive. Then there's the sugar content, the butterfat composition. And apparently your mother added something called espresso powder which sent the readings completely off the charts. She does make them extra strong, Mira admitted. Family recipe. Great-grandma Chen brought it from old Earth. Added her own twist. Passed it down. Mom's been perfecting it for 30 years. Kyunira moved closer, her crimson glow shifting to curious purple. Walk me through this. Your mother prepared these baked items on Earth, in her kitchen in New Seattle. Yeah, she's got this ancient oven. Refuses to use the modern fabricators because she says they don't get the texture right. Mira smiled at the memory. She made a double batch, packaged half for me, kept half for herself. Sent mine through the courier service about 2 weeks ago so they'd arrive fresh for my birthday. Which was yesterday, by the way. Happy birthday to me, I guess. Spent it getting arrested. I pulled up the transit records. Sure enough, package delivery from Earth, sender listed as Jennifer Chen, certified food item, passed through 3 different checkpoints before arriving at Meridian 7. No flags, no issues, completely routine, until it hit our scanners. How did the other stations miss this? Jenkins asked, voicing what we were all thinking. Rexall's tentacles drooped. They probably didn't miss it. They probably have updated databases that account for common food items. We're running firmware that's, let me check, 17 cycles out of date because someone in maintenance keeps pushing the updates to next quarter's budget. Kilnira's glow went nova bright with rage. Tell me you're joking. I submitted the request for scanner updates 4 times this cycle alone. Request denied due to insufficient funds allocation. We've been operating on equipment that was cutting edge when humans were still debating whether to join the Galactic Federation. Rixel pulled up more files, each one a denied maintenance request. Our database doesn't include 70% of Earth-origin food products, 40% of Valorian spices, and don't even get me started on Crithian fermented beverages. The pieces started clicking together in my head like a very disappointing puzzle. So we've been flagging food as contraband because our equipment is ancient, not just food. Medications, personal care products, religious items. Probably half the legitimate cargo that passes through this station. Rexel looked like she wanted to throw her data pad through a wall. We've been lucky no one's filed formal complaints, or maybe they have and administration buried them. I didn't bury anything, Kilnira said icily. Previous administration, ma'am. You've only been station administrator for 2 cycles. Mira raised her hand like she was in a classroom. Quick question. Does this mean I'm not going to space prison for my mom's baking? You were never going to space prison, I said, feeling my career prospects dimming by the second. We would have realized the mistake eventually being the key word, the Zarthorian called from Cell 8. How many of us are in here because your scanners are garbage? That question hit like a meteor strike. Kilnira's glow cycled through 6 different colors in rapid succession. None of them good. Jenkins actually took a step back. Rexmorgus bioluminescence went completely dark. Pull the records, Kilnira said quietly. Every detention in the past cycle where contraband scanners were the primary evidence. Every single one. I activated the search protocol, dreading what I'd find. The system churned through files, compiling data, cross-referencing scanner results with actual laboratory confirmations. The number that appeared on my screen made my scales itch. 63 detentions. 41 cases where scanner evidence was the sole justification for arrest. 17 cases currently in processing, waiting for trial dates. And those were just the ones from this cycle. Oh, ancestors preserve us, Jenkins whispered. Mira stood up, brushed off her pants, and walked to the edge of her cell. So, and I'm just spitballing here, but it sounds like maybe you folks have a bigger problem than birthday brownies. The understatement of the century, delivered with the casual tone of someone commenting on the weather. Kilnira looked at the numbers, looked at Mira, looked at the now very interested faces of every detainee in the block, and I watched in real time as a station administrator had what I can only describe as a complete administrative meltdown. Release her, Kilnira said. Release her right now, and someone get me every department head on this station in conference room 1 in 30 minutes. We're about to have a very unpleasant conversation about equipment maintenance and legal liability. Mira collected her belongings, including the container of brownies that had started this entire disaster. She paused at the detention block exit, turned back, and held up the container. Anyone want one? They're really good. My mom doesn't mess around. The silence was deafening. Then the Peluvian raised his hand. I'll try one. And that's how Detention Block 7 turned into an impromptu birthday party for a human who just accidentally exposed the biggest security scandal in Meridian 7 history. Conference Room 1 was designed to hold 20 people comfortably. By the time Kilnira's emergency meeting started, we had 47 bodies crammed in there, and that's not counting the remote attendees, whose holograms kept flickering in and out, because the station's projection system was, surprise surprise, also 17 cycles out of date. I got stuck in attendance because apparently detaining someone for chocolate made me a key witness to administrative incompetence. Lucky me. Jenkins stood beside me, looking like he wanted to melt into the floor. Mira sat in the corner, eating a brownie and watching the chaos unfold with the serene expression of someone who'd achieved inner peace through sheer absurdity. Kilnira stood at the head of the table, her crystalline form cycling through colors so fast it was giving me a headache. Let's start with the obvious. How many departments are using the same outdated scanner technology as security? Every hand in the room went up. Every single one. Fantastic. Wonderful. Exactly what I wanted to hear. Her glow shifted to migraine orange again. Customs? Director, Half, a massive Krogerian with tusks that could gore a shuttlecraft, cleared his throat. We've been flagging agricultural imports for 6 cycles now. Kept finding trace compounds in Terran wheat shipments that matched banned fertilizers. We've been holding cargo, running extended inspections, charging storage fees. It's just wheat, Mira said from her corner, not looking up from her brownie. Regular, normal, genetically unmodified wheat. Humans have been growing it for thousands of years, with compounds that match military-grade growth accelerants. Health protested. Because nitrogen is nitrogen, buddy. Plants need it. Doesn't matter if it comes from crop rotation or a lab. The molecular structure looks the same to outdated equipment that can't tell the difference between a cornfield and a weapons facility. Mira took another bite. These are really good, by the way. Anyone else want one? I've got plenty. Medical Director Strin, a Luxarian like Kelanira, but with a permanent irritated red tint, leaned forward. Our pharmaceutical scanners have been rejecting 70% of human medications for the past 2 cycles. We kept telling patients their prescriptions contained controlled substances. Let me guess, Mira said. Anything with acetaminophen, ibuprofen, or antihistamines? How did you know? Because those are basic pain relievers and allergy medications that every human carries. We metabolize them differently than most species. What's harmless to us might be dangerous to, I don't know, Crithians or whatever, but that doesn't make them illegal. She gestured with her brownie. Your scanners are probably freaking out over cough syrup and headache pills. The silence in the room was the kind that comes right before someone starts screaming or throwing furniture. Strin's glow went supernova red. Are you telling me we've been denying legitimate medical care because our equipment thinks aspirin is narcotics? I mean, I'm not a doctor, but yeah, sounds like it. Head of Station Commerce, a Pelorian named Kix, with way too many limbs and not enough patience, slammed 3 of his hands on the table simultaneously. We've been imposing tariffs on Earth luxury goods for 9 cycles. Luxury goods that apparently include packaged foods, personal electronics and clothing items because the scanners detected rare minerals and restricted compounds in the manufacturing. Cotton, Mira said. Excuse me, cotton. It's a plant fiber. Humans make clothes from it. Has been a thing since before we had written language. Your scanners probably detected the cellulose structure and thought it matched some restricted biological material. She finished her brownie and grabbed another one. And the electronics thing. Yeah, all electronics have rare earth minerals in them. That's how electronics work. You can't make a communicator without neodymium and dysprosium and a bunch of other stuff that sounds made up but isn't. Quix's eye stalks drooped. We've been taxing people for wearing plant-based clothing. Hey, at least you didn't arrest them for birthday cake, Mira said cheerfully. Silver Linings, the holographic projection of Chief Engineer Vexstar, currently stuck in the reactor room and unable to attend in person, flickered aggressively. This explains so much. We've been rejecting maintenance requisitions for human-compatible parts because the material composition kept flagging as potentially hazardous. Do you know how many repair delays we've had because we couldn't get certified components? Let me answer that question with another question, Mira said, standing up and walking to the table. How many humans currently live or work on this station? Kilnira pulled up the data. 347 registered residents, another 200 transient workers and visitors on average. And how many complaints have been filed about scanner issues, denied services, delayed shipments, or general bureaucratic nightmares specifically related to Earth origin items or human needs? The administrator's glow went very, very dim. She pulled up another file, scrolled, kept scrolling. The list went on for pages. 1,216 complaints in the past 5 cycles alone, Kalanira said, her voice hollow. All categorized as minor grievances and sorted into pending review. Pending review, Mira repeated. For 5 cycles. That's years of people trying to tell you the system was broken, and nobody listened. Borntak, who'd been sitting silently through the entire meeting looking like he was reconsidering his career choices, finally spoke. How many cases have I prosecuted based primarily on scanner evidence? Nobody wanted to answer that. I sure as hell wasn't going to. Rick Seal pulled up the data instead, because apparently this meeting wasn't painful enough already. In your 40 years of service, 2,372 cases. Approximately 60% relied heavily on scanner analysis as primary or supporting evidence. The chief interrogator's mandibles didn't click. They didn't move at all. He just stared at the numbers like they'd personally betrayed him. We need to halt all scanner-based operations immediately, Kalanira said, for glow stabilizing into determined silver. Customs, security, medical, commerce, every department. Nothing gets flagged, detained, or denied based solely on scanner results, until we can verify the equipment is actually functional. That will shut down half the station's operations. Director Halt protested. Good. Better to shut down than continue violating trade agreements and sentient rights on an industrial scale. She turned to Mira. You, human, I'm officially hiring you as a consultant. Mira paused mid-bite. What? You're going to help us figure out what we've been doing wrong, what we need to fix, and how to implement actual competent screening procedures that don't treat birthday presents as biological warfare. Mira's glow intensified. And you're going to be compensated handsomely for the inconvenience of being illegally detained. I'm just a botanical research assistant. I study moss reproduction cycles. You understand human customs better than anyone on this station apparently. That makes you qualified. The administrator pulled up a contract on her holographic display. Standard consultation rate, plus damages for wrongful arrest, plus hazard pay for dealing with this administrative disaster. Do we have an agreement? Mira looked at the contract, looked at the room full of department heads, who'd just realized their careers were balanced on the edge of a very sharp knife. Looked at the container of brownies that had caused this entire catastrophe. Then she smiled. That same calm smile she'd had since the moment we arrested her. Like she'd known all along how this was going to end. Can I finish my brownie first? Please do, Mira said. Because once you're done, we're going to start fixing every broken system on this station, and I have a feeling it's going to take a while. The Peluvian from Cell 10, who'd somehow convinced the guards to let him attend the meeting as a witness, raised his hand. Does this mean my charges are dropped? Everyone's charges are under review, Kalanira said tiredly. If your detention was based on faulty scanner evidence, you'll be released and compensated. File your appeal with administration by end of shift. I watched as 47 people simultaneously realized they were about to be buried in paperwork for the next several cycles. Jenkins looked at me. I looked at him. We arrested someone for brownies, he said quietly. We arrested someone for brownies and accidentally exposed systematic failures across every major department on the station. I corrected. Do you think we still have jobs after this? Honestly, I have no idea. Mira finished her brownie, dusted the crumbs off her hands, and stood up. All right. Administrator, where do we start? And that's how a 24-year-old botanical research assistant became the most important person on Station Meridian 7. All because her mom made really good chocolate brownies. 3 weeks later, Station Meridian 7 looked like it had been hit by a bureaucratic hurricane. In a way it had. Hurricane Mira, Category 5, leaving organizational restructuring and competent protocols in her wake. The humans set up operations in what used to be a disused storage bay on level 14. Within 48 hours she'd transformed it into command central for the most comprehensive equipment overhaul in station history. Data screens covered every wall, displaying scanner readings, chemical analyses, and increasingly panicked messages from department heads who'd just discovered how many regulations they'd been violating. I got reassigned to her team. So did Jenkins. Apparently our skill at spectacularly screwing up made us ideal candidates for learning how to not screw up in the future. Kilnira's logic, not mine. But I wasn't about to argue with the administrator who just saved my career by blaming everything on previous management. Mira stood in front of a holographic display, gesturing at molecular structures while a group of thoroughly confused technicians took notes. She'd traded her travel clothes for practical station gear, but still kept that same unshakable calm that made you think getting arrested was just another Tuesday for her species. See this compound? That's capsaicin. Humans eat it for fun. We put it in food deliberately, because we enjoy mild pain receptors firing off in our mouths. She pulled up another structure. This one? Lactose. It's in milk. Most adult humans can't even digest it properly. But we still consume it in massive quantities because we're weird about cheese. Neither of these should flag as dangerous substances just because they have complex molecular structures. A Valorian technician raised 3 tentacles. But capsaicin is chemically similar to 7 different irritant compounds used in crowd control. Yes. And water is chemically similar to hydrogen peroxide. But you don't see anyone arresting clouds for carrying oxidizing agents. Mira zoomed in on the molecular comparison. Context matters. Concentration matters. Delivery method matters. Your scanners need to account for all of that. not just shriek the moment they detect anything with more than 5 carbon atoms in a chain. Rixale had become Mira's unofficial second-in-command, which was hilarious considering she was technically 3 pay grades higher. The lab technician's bioluminescence had shifted from stressed strobing to excited pulsing as they worked through the scanner database together. We've identified 2,417 false positives in the past cycle alone, Rixale announced, pulling up statistics that made my head hurt. Everything from religious ceremonial items flagged as combustibles to children's toys detected as surveillance equipment because they contained basic electronic components. My favorite is still the Crithian merchant who got detained for carrying fermented cabbage, Mira said, grinning. Your scanners thought it was a biological weapon because of the bacterial cultures. It was literally just fancy sauerkraut. Jenkins, who'd been reviewing detention records for days, looked up from his datapad. We owe that merchant 6,000 credits in compensation and a formal apology. Add it to the list, I muttered. The list of people we owed apologies to had gotten long enough to require its own database. The real turning point came when Mira convinced Kelanira to bring in specialists from Earth, Veloria, Krithia, and 15 other Federation worlds to help recalibrate every scanner on the station. Turns out when you actually consult with species about their common items and cultural practices, you make fewer catastrophic mistakes. Revolutionary concept apparently. Bornthek showed up at the operations bay on day 19, looking like he'd aged 10 cycles in 3 weeks. His mandibles clicked softly as he approached Mira's workstation. Miss Chen, I owe you an apology. Mira looked up from her chemical analysis. You were doing your job. The system was broken, not you. I built my career on trusting that system. His scales rippled with something that might have been shame. 40 years of interrogations, and I never questioned whether the evidence was legitimate. I just assumed the technology was infallible. Technology is only as good as the people programming it and the databases supporting it, Mira said, her voice gentler than I'd heard before. You didn't build the broken system, you just worked within it. Now you know better, so you can do better. The old interrogator was quiet for a moment. I've requested reassignment to the scanner recalibration project. If you'll have me, we could use someone with your attention to detail. Welcome aboard. I watched them shake hands, human and Dravathoian. Connected by the shared experience of discovering your entire professional foundation was built on outdated firmware and administrative negligence. Beautiful, really, in a deeply depressing way. By week 4, the changes were impossible to miss. New scanners installed at every checkpoint, programmed with comprehensive databases that actually included common items from all Federation species. Mandatory cultural competency training for all security personnel, which I failed twice before finally passing because apparently I'd been mispronouncing half the species names for my entire career. Revised detention protocols that required actual evidence beyond machine readings. The false detention rate dropped by 93% in the first month. Station complaint filings decreased by 87%. And Mira Chen, botanical research assistant who'd come to Meridian 7 to study fungal growth patterns in low-gravity environments, became the head of the newly created Department of Cross-Species Protocol Compliance. Kelanira created the position specifically for her, with a salary that made my eyes water and benefits that included unlimited station housing and a personal laboratory. The human accepted on one condition. My mom gets free passage to visit whenever she wants, and you never ever scan her baked goods again. Done deal. I found Mira in the observation deck on her 2-month anniversary of not being arrested. She was eating another brownie, because apparently her mother had sent a new batch, this time delivered directly to her quarters with a station administrator's exemption code. You know what's funny? She said as I joined her at the viewport. I almost didn't come to Meridian 7. Had offers from 3 other stations. Picked this one because the listing said you had excellent security and state-of-the-art detection systems. I winced. About that. Hey, you weren't wrong. The security is excellent now. And the detection systems are genuinely state-of-the-art after we replaced all of them. She offered me the container. Brownie, I tried one during that first chaotic meeting. Nearly gave myself a stimulant overdose, because Dravathoian metabolism processes chocolate about 6 times faster than human biology. Worth it though, I'll pass. Still recovering from the last one. Your loss. She took another bite, gazing out at the star field beyond the station. You ever think about how I could have just thrown the brownies away at the checkpoint? Avoided this whole mess frequently. Why didn't you? Because they were from my mom. She made them specifically for me, packaged them with care, sent them halfway across the galaxy so I wouldn't spend my birthday alone on a space station eating fabricated nutrients. Mira smiled, soft and genuine. No way I was throwing that away just because some scanner had a panic attack over cocoa content. That was it. Really. The whole disaster boiled down to a human who loved her mother's baking more than she feared bureaucratic inconvenience. Most species would have complied immediately, discarded the contraband, apologized for the trouble. Humans, apparently, had different priorities. Your species is insane, I said, not for the first time. Yeah. Mira agreed cheerfully. But we make good brownies. Can't argue with that. 6 months later, the Galactic Federation used Meridian 7 as the model for station-wide equipment and protocol updates across all member facilities. Turns out, we weren't the only ones running ancient scanners and making catastrophically stupid assumptions about other species' everyday items. We were just the first ones to get called out on it by a 24-year-old human with homemade chocolate and absolutely zero patience for nonsense. They named the new standards the Chen Protocols, which Mira found hilarious and her mother found deeply gratifying. Jenkins and I got commendations for our role in the reforms, which we definitely didn't deserve but weren't going to turn down. Vorntak retired from interrogation and became the Federation's leading expert on scanner technology limitations. And somewhere on Earth, in a kitchen in New Seattle, Jennifer Chen continues making the brownies that accidentally reformed intergalactic security standards, completely unaware that her secret family recipe is now taught in Federation training courses as an example of why technology without context is just expensive garbage. Me? I'm still here on Meridian 7, still processing detentions, still dealing with actual criminals instead of birthday presents. The work is boring now, predictable. Nothing like those wild weeks when a human girl turned our entire station inside out with nothing but baked goods and common sense. Boring is good. Boring means we're doing our jobs right. Though I've got to admit, sometimes I miss the excitement. Not the paperwork, never the paperwork, but the sheer chaos of watching everything you thought you knew get dismantled by someone who refused to accept that chocolate was a weapon. Humans. Man, they'll either save you or destroy you. And half the time they do both simultaneously while eating dessert and cracking jokes. Best thing that ever happened to this station, getting that arrest wrong. Don't tell Kill Mira, I said that. She's still processing the compensation claims.